Hello, everybody. Welcome into a Monday edition of the Computer America Show. Terrific program. Author Michael Miller is here with us for both hours here on the eve of Windows 10. Actually, 27th, so 2 more days. So it's not quite the eve, but it's the eve before the release of Windows 10. Certainly lots to talk about. Some last-minute things, last-minute details. Can't think of a better person to discuss Windows 10 with than Michael Miller, author of over 150 books. He'll be joining us shortly. He's running to his computer as we speak. Maybe his Windows 10 is giving him a problem. I don't know. Anyhow, it's going to be a lot of fun. Certainly a terrific show.
1 minute until showtime.
So sit back, relax as we begin 2 hours of Computer America. And there he is. Hi, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
I did our introduction before you got here, so we're starting in about 30 seconds. So,
all right.
Alrighty. You look well.
Thank you. As do you.
Thank you. Okay.
Just dealing with Korean kids coming home from vacation Bible school about 3 minutes ago, so that...
Okay. Well, we're all here. As long as the gang is all here. Ben's here.
The show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news.
Korean kids coming home from vacation Bible school.
Phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
The Computer America Show is brought to you by Bell Ringers. It's newer than news when you're right there as it first debuts. Visit our sponsor's website at bellringersmedia.com. Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And it's Monday!
Yeah!
Okay.
There you go.
Just a little tiny one. Okay.
Oh, come on, it's Monday. Look, because we air so late at night,
Yes.
and I don't know if we should be telling people a little bit later about that, but because we air so late at night, this should be a good thing because Monday's over. Yay!
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. The first day of the week. Always But hopefully all of you had a wonderful weekend and had an enjoyable, restful weekend. And we have a really interesting lineup of guests for this week, which you can see at the Computer America website. Author Michael Miller is going to be here, joining us for both hours here on the eve. What is it? The eve of is the night before, but when it's 2 days before, is it the double eve of? What's the proper nomenclature?
The EVI.
The EVI.
The EVI of Windows 10.
The eve before the eve of Windows 10, okay, which will be coming down your chimney July 29th, right into your computer for many of you. So we have author Michael Miller going to be talking about Windows 10 and a bunch of other things in the upcoming 2 hours here of the program. Now, if you have a comment or a question about anything we're talking about tonight, for me, for Ben, for Mike, you can give us a call, 347-884-8881. Did you write that down? Yeah, I'll repeat it for you. 347-884-8881. I'll get you on and get you through. You can also interact with us in another interesting way. If you're a little radio shy and you don't want to go on the air, but you still have a question, all you have to do is go into the Computer America Show Lounge. That's right at ComputerAmerica.com. And on the left-hand side, you'll see it says Ask a Question. Something new. And all you have to do is put your name, your email address, and type in your question there and hit the Submit button. Ben and I will instantly see it, and if we think it's appropriate, we will ask your question on the air. You see how easy that is? We just make it so simple for you. You pick up the phone. It's easy. You want to submit a question. We do that. It's very simple. All of that. So we can interact with you, our listeners, here at Computer America.
Indeed.
Yes. So anything else before we you want to mention?
No. Our guest is going to be with us here at the first, for both hours. So, no news or anything like that. But
no news tonight, of course.
No news tonight, and no news tomorrow night. We have, or Wednesday night actually.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, we're gonna have a book solid week of guests with no news. So even though we aren't going to talk about it on the air, there's still news going on that I think is really interesting. So go check out your favorite tech news site, and there's a lot of really cool things going on. But even though we're not going to talk about just a hodgepodge of news stories, what we are going to talk about on tonight's show is still newsworthy because, as Craig was saying earlier, it's Windows 10.
Yes, exactly. And even though we might not have a computer news segment, although I see a couple of opportunities, when we do bring you computer news, it's of course brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. All right, so I think we should get started. Mike is right here. I knew what else I forgot to mention in my opening spiel. When you can call us, when you click, forgive me for this, not mentioning it, but when you go over to the show lounge and you click, it's the second item in the pull-down menu there, you'll see that ask a question. That's it. But something else will happen too, because we are not only a live radio talk show, we also broadcast a live video stream of Computer America. That's right. You can not only hear the show, you can actually watch the show. That's right. We make that available to you, our listeners at ComputerAmerica.com. The video stream will begin automatically. You don't have to really do anything else, and you can start watching the show. It's another way that we bring the information to you. And Ben has the marvelous technology to display whatever we're talking about. He still remains in the window. His giant head becomes a little head, goes into the slide corner, and you can see websites, videos, anything and everything we're talking about tonight. You can see it just by looking and seeing what Ben is. Of course, you can also see our guest tonight, too. And our guest tonight is Michael Miller. He is the author of well over 150 books on technology, such as The Idiot's Guide to Google+, My Pinterest, Facebook for Grown-Ups, as well as many other subjects, too, like The Idiot's Guide to Conducting Music and B2B Digital Marketing. Mike is one of our Computer America correspondents who appears here on the show on a regular basis every month. Mike, welcome into Computer America. How are you?
Hi, Craig. I am doing fine. How are you guys tonight?
Oh, we're just doing well. Now,
dandy.
You're the writer. What do you call the eve of the eve? Is there a word for it, or is it just the eve?
Well, like if it were the eve of Christmas Eve, it would be Christmas Eve Eve. It's a mathematical thing. Imagine, how you have a formula with parentheses dividing off different things. So Christmas Eve would be in parentheses, and then Eve would be outside of that, acting on the parenthetical expression.
And if we divide that by 30, or there's only 30 days in the month, you say, or 31, and that equals X, which you have to always find.
Right, and X is somewhere in a box or on a box or a box in terms of Microsoft. So
this is making as much sense as my math classes did. So.
Or it could fit for 10. That could be the Roman 10 with 10, which means it's Windows 10, and so that would make perfect sense. Okay, so anyhow,
and he misses. Yay!
Microsoft has resisted the temptation to do that, to use the Roman numerals with Windows 10. I don't know why. There might be bad connotations with Windows X. Yes. Well, it would be Mac-like, right?
Yes, it would. Yes. You'd have to use a mouse and have icons and all that strange stuff. Oh wait, they do. Okay. So, but yes, here it is. It's the official launch again is the 29th of July and has been for some time. And it is, of course, the 27th of July, so that means this Wednesday we will actually see Windows 7 being delivered to computers everywhere. And
to some computers in some places.
Okay. Well, yes, they don't want to roll it out to everybody at once. It would be pandemonium, obviously, so you can't do that. But we'll see the beginnings of the official golden release to users who pre-ordered or pre-signed up. I guess we're getting it for free. Any Windows 7 or Windows 8 or Windows 8.1 will get it for free.
That's right. In fact, if you're running Windows 7 or Windows 8, you probably see in the lower right-hand corner of your taskbar a little Windows icon now, and it says Get Windows 10. And that's how you get Windows 10. Microsoft has taken the liberty of, installing, an application on your computer without your knowledge or permission. And because of that, you can click that little Windows icon and sign up to get Windows 10. Not necessarily on Wednesday, but probably within the next day or two after that. They're going to roll it out, in stages. That their servers just can't handle sending it to everybody at the exact same minute.
No,
worldwide.
That would be impossible. Now, what if you missed it though? I mean, after after Wednesday, excuse me, and you miss it, will that little Windows icon go away, or can you still request it?
I don't know. I'll tell you, because I'm not going to click the icon on this particular computer. So ask me next week whether it's still there or not. I have no idea. I mean, Microsoft, again, this was something Microsoft didn't tell anybody they were doing. You just woke up one morning and, hey, I've got a new icon in my notification area. So who knows?
And you did sign up for it on your other computer, but not this computer.
Well, I've got, like you, I've got multiple computers around the house, and there are some I want to keep running Windows 7. There's none that I want to keep running Windows 8, mind you. But there's others that I've already upgraded and will be upgrading officially this week.
Now, there are some caveats. There was an article in CNET just today that was published that says that basically says. And the headline is 3 Reasons to Hold Off on Windows 10. The subtitle is Some Users May Be Better Off Waiting a Few Weeks Before Upgrading to Windows 10. This is by Dan Graziano from CNET. And he lists a number of things. I've seen the article. He talks about incompatible programs, incompatible hardware, bugs, and those are the 3 main reasons. He says if you're running he cites, for example, he likes to run Photoshop 7. He doesn't know whether that's going to work in Windows 10. So he's saying you might want to wait until the programs that you use on a frequent basis. You might want to make sure that they are in fact ready and compatible with Windows 10. Words of wisdom? Would you agree?
Well, in terms of the program compatibility, I think we would have found that out already. But still, if you're a better safe than sorry type of person. Wait a week or two and see if anybody else has problems. I mean, let them have the problems instead of you having the problems, right? In terms of the bugs, however, that's a legitimate one. In fact, there are already some bugs. The version of Windows 10, which will be released to the public, this is something in the old days they used to call release to manufacturing, or RTM. Yep. That somewhere a month to 2 months before the official release, they would, solidify the thing. They would, literally bake a gold disc somewhere. I think that at one point in time they lifted it by helicopter from here to there to show how important it was.
Really?
And that was the RTM, and that was the solid final. Well, with Windows 10, it isn't like that anymore. In fact, Microsoft made a big point of saying that there's no RTM, there's no release to manufacturing, because from here on out, they're calling it Windows as a Service. So that every week, every couple weeks, whatever, they will be downloading updates and bug fixes to Windows, whether you want them or not. That's part of the deal. You have to get these updates, and so it's kind of a continuing project. All right, like Google is, like a lot of websites are. I mean, they're just moving into the cloud-based world. But so the version that they're releasing as the initial final version, what we would have called RTM, is the beta build. 10.240. Okay, that's the number of the build, and they've already released one patch to 10.240. Okay, 10.240 came out about 2 weeks ago. They released a patch to it about 4 or 5 days ago, and the patch was buggy. The patch actually, I don't know what problems it fixed, but it caused some problems, which, as we all know, that happens a lot, right? They download what is it, Wednesday or Tuesday, whenever they generally release the patches. Then
Tuesdays.
Yeah. And so this one came out, and it would crash the Explorer, the desktop, essentially, if you did certain things in a certain order. For example, if you tried to delete an application, it'll crash Explorer. Now, Explorer comes back. It rebuilds itself. You sit there and you watch the screen and all the icons come back, but it will crash it. So that's a known bug in the first bug fix.
Now, are we talking Explorer or are we talking Edge?
No, I'm talking not File Explorer, but actually the Explorer app, which creates the desktop.
Not the browser. Oh, okay.
No, but the browser is part of it, but it affects the start menu, it affects the taskbar, it affects the notification area, all this stuff. It just like it vanishes with this bug, and then it rebuilds itself. It takes a few minutes, and you see the icons and everything start popping back on, so you can use them again. So it's kind of a self-fixing bug, but it is a bug nonetheless.
What causes it to happen?
I don't know what caused, but in terms of activities, there are a couple different documented activities, one of which is when you use the settings tool to try and delete a program, that kicks out Explorer for some reason or another. I've experienced it in using File Explorer, believe it or not, when the icons are displayed at a certain size, not at every size, and I try to move an app from one folder to another, it'll crash Explorer also. It's very weird. So obviously this is some background thing they've got to work on, got to fix, which is why when they say, well, don't download it on day one, wait a week or two, that is one reason why. Let them work out some of these initial bugs first and get a little bit more stable. This is not the most stable major operating release I've ever seen.
Now, is that because of the time frame for release that they picked too early a date? They should have waited a little bit longer, or is it just the complexity of Windows 10?
In my opinion, they should have waited a little bit longer. It wasn't fully baked. They were changing stuff up until about 2 to 3 weeks ago. I mean, it really didn't become solid until about 2 weeks ago.
They had to take, and of course, when in pre-release they have debugging software. They have all kinds of additional things in there, which are now I assume they're removing for the final version.
Yeah, and a lot of the insider stuff is coming out for the final version as well. So they were in a rush, and they were, and I'm not going to fault them for this. They were very responsive to the customer feedback. So the million or so people who were running the test version, they were providing, both proactive feedback. They were, sending comments to Microsoft, as well as Microsoft was tracking the operations and the behavior of those people as they use the software. So Microsoft was getting feedback and acting on the feedback until almost the very last minute. And maybe they should have given themselves a little bit more time to fully bake it, because it's obvious to me that there's some stuff. I mean, there's bugs. In addition to the bug we talked about, if you use some of the universal apps, some of the Microsoft apps that come with it, some of the apps are buggy as all get out. The People app, I cannot get to work for me. It loads and it crashes. It loads and it crashes. Other people have trouble with the Mail app. I've heard some people who have trouble with the Photos app. So these things, they're kind of a work in progress. But Microsoft said, hey, since we're going to be issuing patches every week, if we could issue them every day if we wanted to, that we'll release it buggy, and then it'll get fixed as we go on.
Now the People app, is that your contacts or something?
Yes, it's Contacts app. It also centralizes contacts from all of your accounts. So if you've got a Facebook account, a Twitter account, whatnot, it will centralize all your contacts from all those accounts in one app. It's a very nice app, actually, for managing your contacts. Or, it wasn't until I can use it anymore because it crashes all the time.
Okay. Now, you mentioned in this description, you said something and we kind of glossed over quickly, but my understanding, and this is official, that if you have Windows 10 Home, these updates or fixes happen without your control. You have no way of controlling that. It's going to happen.
Yep, that's part of the deal when you put the little check mark on the I agree to the terms and service without actually reading them. That's what you're agreeing. One of the things you're agreeing to now is that where before, these patches that came out, the Windows updates through the Windows Update tool, you could opt not to get them. You could configure Windows Update so that you could only install them manually. They wouldn't install automatically. Yeah. Well, going forward, they install automatically. And there's a very good reason for that. Microsoft doesn't want people running 22 different versions of Windows 10. They want everybody on the most up-to-date version with all the fixes and all the patches and all that. So, I mean, there's a good reason for them to do that. But some people obviously take offense at that it's infringing on their privacy or whatnot. Frankly, I think it's a good thing, but I can understand why some people might be a little wary of it.
Well, they always have the option of getting the Pro build, or whatever the devil it is you're calling it, where they can put it off for 8 months.
I'm not. Is it that it's the Pro build, or that you have the Enterprise edition that you actually have to pay for?
That's the Pro version. The Pro version.
Like there's one the basic home edition costs 119, and there's one that costs like 139 that people use for businesses. It might be the Enterprise, might be Pro build, but because it's in a business scenario, they feel comfortable saying, okay, you don't have to because it might break your business. Yeah,
I mean, Microsoft is sensitive to that the IT people in a big corporation, they want to have a little bit more control over what gets updated and what doesn't get updated. So that's part of that particular version of Windows, and that is a version that you can't upgrade to for free. Okay, that's because when we say Windows 10 is free, it's free for you and me, but if you're a big corporation, you're still paying for it because you're getting that Enterprise version, the Pro version, whatever.
But I mean, like,
there's something ironic about the fact that if you don't want to upgrade, you have to pay.
Even that, it's only an 8-month reprieve, and then they force you to catch up whatever it is 8 months later. So
now, is it 8 months or 8 weeks?
8 months.
8 months, okay. Because I guess I figure if you can't solve your problem in 8 months, then you have another problem.
Yeah, they're not putting a permanent hold where hey, you don't have to do it ever. It's it's 8 months. Get your stuff together.
Right, exactly, and as Mike says, that's probably a desirable thing because they don't want 50 million different versions of with service packs and everything. Everything is going to be
we cover stories a lot of time where people there are articles and they're saying that Microsoft has been compromised again by a 0-day vulnerability, and it turns out that the only people who are susceptible to it are the people who haven't upgraded their machine in 4 months, 3 weeks, whatever it may be, and it's just their way of maybe just fixing all those security holes that seem to pop up.
Like, and to be honest, most people were on the automatic Windows update anyway. That was the default. You actually had to go in and reconfigure it to not get them automatically. So for most people, this isn't a change. But for those people who said, "Oh, I don't want to upgrade because the patch might be buggy. I want to give the patch a week before I upgrade it to it." Those are the people they're a little bit upset that now we're all going to get buggy patches.
Yeah,
which is a possibility now.
But you said it's a smaller portion of the general public that's out there. Most people are just going to be happy to get it. And I'll tell you something. If that update breaks something, and Microsoft's going to know about it real fast, and they're going to either issue another one that's going to take you back, or they're going to make a fix for it, and they're going to fix it real quickly.
Well, here's an interesting behind-the-scenes thing. In all this testing leading up to the final release of Windows 10, it's been part of what Microsoft calls their Insiders program. You sign up to join the Insiders program, and you get on a ring. You can be on a fast ring where you get the updates very, very fast. And then you run the risk of them crashing your computer, or you can be on a slow ring where you don't get as many upgrades as quickly, but the updates you get have been a little bit more tested. All right. Okay. Well, this Insiders program in this concept of fast and slow ring continues on after the thing's officially released. So, for example, I'm a member of the Insiders program. I will stay a member of the Insiders program. I will get major updates before you do if you're just a general consumer. So by the time it rolls out to the general public, the major updates anyway, they are going to be tested still via the Insiders program.
Well, that's kind of good. That's good. Because you can do everything as much as you want, but until you put something out into the real world and get real world results, there's just no telling what might happen. But I think the general consensus is that this is a good thing.
Yeah, and just want to make one thing. After that, the little icon came into my system tray. I signed up for it. I checked it again one more time, and I really have been ignoring it, ever since I got it. But I just clicked it again just now, and they've added recently, at least recently in the past couple weeks since I've checked it, a PC compatibility checklist. And you can click one button, and it'll automatically tell you if your PC meets the minimum requirements to run Windows 10, and if any applications running on your computer are incompatible with Windows 10.
Oh, that's nice.
Yep. Yeah, I'm looking at the thing now, and it says, "Hey, my computer is compatible. I can view a report. I can, get it for," it says $119 crossed out, free, and yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, as far as compatibility, if you're running Windows 8 or 8.1, compatibility is not an issue. Windows 7, it could be, because Windows 7 has been around now for how many years? 6 years or so?
It's been a bit.
Yeah, so you could be looking at some older hardware there. That could be a little bit of an issue. Now, probably not, but it could be an issue.
Yeah, these requirements aren't that high. It's
No.
X amount of gigs on a hard drive, 1 gigahertz processor, and I'm sure they have a minimum requirement of RAM. But yeah, the bar doesn't seem high for Windows 10.
Does that observation that Ben made sort of connote that Windows 10 is going to be faster than Windows 7?
Actually, no. Well, faster than Windows 7, yes, because Windows 8 was faster than Windows 7.
Okay.
I mean, as much as I bitched about Windows 8 and the interface on it, it was a better operating system. It ran faster. I mean, I upgraded my word, at the time it was an 8-year-old computer from Windows XP at that point in time up to Windows 8, and it ran tons faster. So here's my take on it, though, and I may be totally incorrect on this, and if that's the case, I didn't say a word of it. But my feeling is that Windows 10 is very much an interface update, not an under-the-hood update. Now, I know there are under-the-hood changes, but I mean, especially when you look at those hardware requirements, I mean, they're really almost identical from Windows 8 to Windows 10. I don't think they changed a whole lot under the hood. I think they totally revamped, the body of the car and put new grill work on and a new paint job and stuff like that, which it desperately needed. But in terms of the engine of the thing, I don't think this was as big a update as, say, Windows 7 was to Windows 8 or Windows 7 was, or Windows XP was to Windows 7.
Really? Okay.
Again, I could be totally wrong, in which case I was not on the show at all tonight. But but that is definitely my feel. I mean, I don't get the impression that Windows 10 runs faster. I don't get the impression that it runs slower either. I mean, it feels a lot like Windows 8 did.
Was it my impression? I thought with Windows 10 they basically start from scratch. They threw out everything and they coded from the ground up.
That's what their marketing team would like you to believe, that they threw out everything bad, kept what's good, did everything, worked long nights, drank Red Bull, slaved away at this thing. But
the Red Bull might be correct.
Yeah, but I might have to side with Michael on this one. Is that I don't think the guts of Windows 8 was all that bad. It's just every solid complaint was like no one really came out saying, "Oh, Windows 8.1 always crashes on my insert PC manufacturer computer here. It always made my tablet go pop. You never heard anything hardware-wise bad about it. It was just where's my start menu? It doesn't work well with touch interfaces. Blah blah. Or I don't want to work with touch. Like if it's just a user interface update, I think that's okay.
I mean, it was a desperately needed Windows interface update. But, contrast that with one of the previous bad versions of Windows Vista.
Uh-huh.
All right? Now, between XP and Vista, they really didn't change a lot on the interface. They changed some. I mean, they rounded off the corners of things and whatnot. But they really changed a lot under the hood, and in doing so, they introduced a lot of incompatibilities. And the beef with Windows Vista wasn't that it looked bad or it was hard to use, it was that it crashed everything and it wasn't compatible with stuff. So they had to come out very, very quickly with Windows 7, which looked a lot like Windows Vista, but fixed all those bugs, right?
Yep.
I think this is the exact opposite. I think Windows 8 was... Windows 8 changed both the interface and the engine, all right? It was a much better engine. It was a much worse interface. With Windows 10, they're keeping that engine. I mean, yeah, tweaking it a little bit, right? But basically it's the same engine, but totally revamping the interface so to answer all the consumer complaints they had back from Windows 8.
So they had good code in there, and they figured, why throw out the good code with the bad code?
Yeah. Now, that said, I mean, obviously there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than you and I or anybody else ever sees. I mean, they are trying to, at least for software developers, to make this a platform where you can write once and have it run on multiple platforms, whether that's a PC or a tablet or a Windows phone. where before the developers kind of had to write the thing 3 different times. They're trying to make it a write once, run many sort of thing for developers. So obviously there's some changes underneath the hood on Windows 10 to make that happen. But in terms of running on this device or that device, I mean, it runs really well, and so did Windows 8. That was not the problem with Windows 8.
Has Microsoft released anything that says how many million lines of code Windows 10 is now?
I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's there. And there's still, I mean, the issue with Windows, which will always be there with Windows, is it is a legacy operating system. They're still supporting devices that are 5 years old, 10 years old, and applications that are 10 years old and that sort of thing, where a newer operating system like Google Chrome doesn't have that issue. I mean, that's always going to be, that's a plus and a minus for Windows. The plus is, yes, it supports all this stuff. The minus is, oh, yeah, it's got to support all that stuff.
Well, can't they make it, when you first initially install it, checks to see what you have, and then only loads in the components or the drivers, I guess, for those particular components, and if you don't have them, you're not saddled with them.
I suppose that could be, and they do that to some degree. I mean, they're not loading everything in the world. I mean, when you install a new printer, you're still downloading some new drivers for it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's more than just drivers. It's the way the internals hook up, and I guarantee if you got in there and started digging through the code in Windows 10, you're going to find stuff from Windows 3.0 still in there.
Okay. You really think?
Oh yeah, I know you will. Yeah, I know you will.
Wow. All right. We got to take a little break. It's the bottom of the hour. Author Michael Miller is here with us. We're talking about Windows 10 on the eve of Windows 10. We've got a brand new News Tips Bulletin review from Marty Winston. Another treat for you coming at you. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Ben and I and Mike will be back. Stay with us.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? That's so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
Citizens of the third planet.
Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the Rack Solutions mat and strap. We've talked about adapting small desktop-style gear, home control gear, small things, to rack mount by tying things to the Rack Solutions vented shelf that we've covered. One of their more useful rack accessories for helping that happen is their Velcro One-Wrap cable strap. A single length, 180 inches long, on a roll, with hooks on one side and loops on the other, so slipping it through vent slots on either side of any kind of tiny little box can snug that down to a shelf. It's also good, of course, for bundling cables together and tying them to inside struts, much as we do when building a PC. They also sent their thin anti-slip mat, a nice way to keep cabling from shoving gear around. Bottom line, Rack Solutions anti-slip mat and Velcro one-wrap cable strap help make rack builds sweeter by being needed. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. Thank you, Marty Winston, for that News Tips Bulletin review. Not as high-techy, but still useful.
Was it Citizens of the Earth?
Citizens of the Third Planet.
There it is. Okay.
Which I believe is no, that's Earth. That's Earth.
Yes, it is. The third planet. At least last I counted.
It was either Mars or Earth. So
Mars is fourth. We're the third planet from the sun.
You know why? Because America is on Earth, and America is one better than Mars. That's a fact.
I knew that.
All right. Yeah, there's of course a reason. So, but back to Michael Miller, esteemed author, esteemed correspondent for the esteemed America. Yeah, I know, it's very, very hot in here. But we're talking all about Windows 10 tonight, and we're talking about some of the features. Actually, we haven't even really touched upon the features yet. We were just, kind of comparing it to past releases and what you can be expecting on Wednesday when the pushes go through. And you can, of course, I think we decided you can play it one of two ways. Either be a baller and download it immediately, or you can be a chump and wait until someone else jumps off the bridge for you. So, either way. So, if there isn't any other warnings we can give people, Michael, I think it would be an appropriate time to entice people to upgrade by talking about some of the changes and some of the features that have made it into the final build.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to approach this, I guess, Mike, unlike you did Windows 8 and Windows 8.1, where you said, "Don't do it," whatever.
They took my start menu.
Yeah, well, once again, bad mouthing Windows 8, and rightfully so. Microsoft just screwed the pooch on that one. They changed the interface without listening to their customers, and without taking into regard how users use Windows, how the a billion and a half people are using Windows, how a billion and a half people use Windows. They just kind of urinated on them and pushed them off to the side and said, "You're going to use it like a tablet now," forgetting the fact that most people don't have tablets, or Windows tablets anyway. So it was just a huge mistake. Windows 10, they sacked all the people responsible and all that. They literally did, or moved them off to work on Xbox or something. Yeah. But they started listening to the customers again and said, "Okay, well, what is it that you want? What is it that you need?" And I saw it all throughout the testing process. It was very unusual for Microsoft. Microsoft is not known as a real user-focused company. They're a company that they have a vision, whether that's technology-driven or financially driven or whatnot, but they put it out. And it either works or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, they fix it the next time. They have a long history of bad release, good release, bad release, good release. But with Windows 10, it was more customer-focused than I've experienced with Microsoft in the 25 or so years I've been in the business, almost 30 years I've been in the business. I've never seen Microsoft work this way before. So kudos to them for being very customer-focused on this. And the result is a new operating system or a new version of Windows, which is pretty darn good. I don't have a whole lot of complaints about it. The only complaints I've heard about Windows 10 really have come from tablet users, because Windows 8, for all its flaws for computer users, was pretty good for tablet users, but they kind of undid some of that stuff, so some of the tablet users are complaining a little bit, but they're basically, I think, 6 or 8 of them worldwide, so it's really not a big base to worry about. There's more of them than there are who are using Windows phones. So and there is a version of Windows 10 for Windows Phone too, and really no one cares. So, but for us people who use desktops and notebooks and hybrid PCs and that sort of thing, Windows 10 is pretty darn good. If you used Windows 8, you will really like it. It's going to fix all everything you hated about Windows 8. And if you use Windows 7, it's going to feel like, hey, this is a logical upgrade to Windows 7. It takes what I like about Windows 7 and kind of amps it up a bit and adds some new stuff. And it really is, a real natural successor to Windows 7, I think.
And all they had to do was skip 2 number versions.
Well, again, Microsoft has this history of really messing it up, but then fixing it. Messing it up and fixing it. And not just in Windows. They do it in Excel. They do it in PowerPoint back in the day. Word is stable enough now that isn't much of an issue anymore. But that's kind of their history. I mean, Windows Vista stunk up the joint, so they released Windows 7. Windows 8 stunk up the joint, so they released Windows 10. They skip a number, big deal. So they have a history of fixing their mistakes, and Windows 8 was one of their. Look at it this way: Windows 8 was one of their biggest mistakes ever. So Windows 10 is one of their biggest corrections ever. I guess to make a quantum leap in usability, they really have to screw it up big time first. So.
Okay.
What this means is whatever the next version of Windows is, although they say there won't be, there always will be, it will be really bad probably, based on their history.
So we're going to focus pretty much on some of the major new features in Windows 10. Again, if you have a comment or question about anything we're talking about, 347-884-8881, or go to our show lounge at computeramerica.com and submit your question to us there. Let's start off, I guess, with the browser, the Edge browser, and
this is a pretty big deal. I mean, we've all been if not using it, we've been used to having it around Internet Explorer. That was Internet Explorer was introduced with Windows 95. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, gee whiz, that's a 20-year-old browser. And my word, have you guys used Internet Explorer recently, ever? When was the last time you used it?
I think I used 11. I think was the latest one I used, and I think they did a lot wrong, back in 6, 7, 8, and 9. But by 11, I think they had, kind of fixed everything. But and I would put it on par with with Chrome or Firefox. It's just they had so much stigma that I don't think they could shake it.
I'd go beyond that. I mean, Internet Explorer, yeah, they did some things wrong. They didn't update it enough. It also just feels old. If you're running Firefox or if you're running Chrome and then you're running Internet Explorer just feels like, an old car. It just the way it's designed and the interface and everything about it just feels like something from a prior generation. And with Microsoft Edge, a brand new browser, although the icon for Edge looks a lot like the E for Internet Explorer when you see it on the taskbar. So if you're used to clicking the E, there's still going to be an E for there for you to click. But it feels like a more modern browser. It's the kind of Chromeless interface where you don't have a lot of window dressing on it. Obviously, it's a tabbed interface. We can talk about this a little bit later, but the whole interface in Windows 10 has changed in terms of the GUI and the look and feel and the design, and this follows along with that. It's a very flat type of browser. It just feels more up to date. Matter of fact, now comparing Edge with Google Chrome, it makes Chrome feel dated to me.
Wow, that's saying something.
Now, they run about the same, but it's just the look and feel of the thing.
Yeah, you're talking about Ben's favorite browser now here, so.
Well, I'm a Chrome guy. I've written books and articles about Chrome. I use Chrome every day. I'm kind of in that Google infrastructure, in the ecosystem. But Edge, there are some things in Edge that I'm really thinking I'm going to switch over to Edge. Now, assuming they get some of the bugs worked out, we're going to have the official release in 2 days, and Edge still feels buggy. It still is slow in some cases, and we've got some website incompatibilities, But when they get those worked out, it's a pretty darn good browser in terms of how it operates.
I understand, though. Again, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the show that some of these things, including Edge, still have the debugging software in it, which slows things down. Is going to be pulled out in the final release.
Well, again, we supposedly have the final release already. At least the insiders do. So, if that's the case, no, it's just still a little buggy.
Okay.
And not surprisingly, this was one of the last components of Windows 10 that was finished. I mean, it was still codenamed Project Spartan up until about a month ago in the software. They'd announced that it was going to be called Edge, but they didn't get the branding within the software until about a month ago. So this is one of the last things added. It's something they're still working on. They're still been adding and subtracting some stuff from it up until very, very, very recently. I mean, this is an unusual thing. We're generally used to software being a lot more stable before it gets released, and this is like, nope. This when's it come out? We're going to call it done on Wednesday. That'll be when it's done. What time? 10:32. That's when it's done. All right.
Microsoft done.
I hope it doesn't bite them in the butt, because a lot of gaming companies have tend to do this, where they'll ship a game to meet some kind of deadline, and day one you put it into your console and you expect to just be able to play it, and you need to download a 12 gig patch, and you need to wait about an extra 2 hours while it patches. And that is becoming more and more common, where they'll ship things and then they'll fix them on their way to the customer. And I just hope that Windows doesn't have too many big ones and start to make people mad right out the gate.
It could happen. I mean, they're playing this one so close that it's especially noticeable in the apps like Edge and the People app, which I said keeps I mean, you're not going to be able to use it. It's going to crash on you. That people who are not testers, people who are not technical insiders, are not going to know quite what's happening when that happens. So yeah, it could bite them in the posterior very easily.
Well, here's the thing. It's funny that Ben mentions that, because he's a gamer himself. In the article that I mentioned earlier by Don Graziano, the 3 reasons to hold off Windows 10, one of the things he says is gamers who plan to upgrade to Windows 10 Home have another potential problem: automatic updates. There is no way to disable this feature, meaning that once Microsoft pushes the new drivers, bug fixes, and security updates, you get them right away. This is great for the average user, but it could cause some headaches for gamers.
See, in the circles that I run in, which are none, I need to go running again. And but in the online community, it seems to be the opposite, where they're excited for Windows 10. They're not really sweating the whole compatibility thing, but they are excited about DirectX 12, which has a lot of improvements over DirectX 11. That Windows 8 and 7 are currently running. I think DirectX 12 is going to be released with Windows 10. And people are looking forward to it. It might actually make a lot of games work better.
Now I'm going to throw in one other game-related thing. There is a new or revised Xbox app in Windows 10, which theoretically will let you stream your Xbox games to Windows. Yeah. I say theoretically because I don't play games, so what the heck? I don't know. But I don't think that's working yet.
Oh yeah,
it just started working a couple days ago. Because when I was testing that out, literally about a week ago, that feature was not enabled yet.
Yeah, we did a story about it where they were going to start, but I think they're either going to do it in the next couple weeks, or I think they might be doing it when they do some kind of big overhaul, because the Xbox One came out about a year and a half ago, whenever it came out. And I think they're going to push a rather large interface update, to kind of help it mesh better with Windows 10. So I think when they push that update through to the Xbox One, then they're going to turn that feature on, and they're going to have a lot more compatibility between the two. But they're waiting until they update the Xbox One.
It was, I'm writing books about Windows, and I actually helped, in addition to the 3 books I'm doing, as if 3 books weren't enough, I helped out another author who was doing a Windows book who just couldn't get it done in time, so I did a couple chapters for him, and one of the chapters talked about this Xbox app, and I'm sitting here having to talk about something that I literally cannot show or use or demonstrate yet, so it's kind of all theoretical at this point in time.
Yeah, no one can really access it, but I hear, Microsoft is promising a lot of great things with it, so that's exciting.
That's it's like I talk about it and I show a picture of something different. So that's do not look behind the curtain. Do not look at the man behind the curtain. Okay. Back to the Edge browser. I want to talk about one feature in the browser, which to me is the one that's drawing me to the browser. Assuming that its operation is on a par with Chrome, maybe even a little bit better once they get it running, whatever. There's a new feature in this called Reading View, which is really cool. When when you're looking at a web page, specifically an article of some sort, where you've got pictures and ads and all this, folder all around the real content,
Right.
you click on Reading View, and it erases all that unnecessary content. So you're just seeing the main text, the main pictures. In fact, it formats the text so it's a little bit bigger on the page, and it just makes reading articles on the web a whole lot more enjoyable.
So what you're saying is that products like Adaware, AdBlock Plus, AdBlock Plus, are those going away with?
Well, with Reading View, it gets rid of the ads fairly effectively. So if you're using Reading View, you don't need programs like that. Now, I can't imagine that advertisers. And by the way, Windows is becoming more ad supported. There are certain apps within Windows which are going to be showing ads now, believe it or not. But so as reliant on advertising revenue as the internet is, this Reading View essentially blocks out all the advertising. It's great as a consumer. I love it. As an advertiser, I would be pulling my hair out. But as a consumer, it makes the web page, it makes a cluttered web page a joy to read. It's really wonderful. And I'm doing a couple books for seniors, and for seniors who have kind of vision problems anyway, and then you got the small type, and you got to get out your reading glasses. Well, of course, I have reading glasses too. You don't need that anymore. You just go into Reading View, and it comes up in a larger font against a cleaner background. In fact, you can even adjust the font in Reading View to be even larger. So, I mean, if you're having trouble reading stuff on the web, you go into Reading View, and it's a lot easier to read now. I mean, it's just a wonderful way to look at the web. Now, you have to kind of activate it on a page-by-page basis.
Yeah.
You have to click the button for each page you read. But, boy, I love this. I'm using Reading View, and I have to go back and read a normal web page, and I'm annoyed.
I predict a plugin for Edge that's going to, when you put it in Reading View, it'll keep it in Reading View. Or they'll just modify it in the next version. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't know. The only issue with that is that there are some pages that you can't put into Reading View.
Yeah.
Because they're just not they're not designed that way. A page that's an all graphic page, for example, you really couldn't put into Reading View. There wouldn't be anything there to do something with.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. No. Just wondering, are people gonna kind of see this intuitively? Like, is it going to be in the upper left, upper right hand corner, or is it going to be like control function R or whatever? Like,
well,
how
as with all modern interface designs, I don't think anything's intuitive anymore.
Cool.
It's actually an icon on the right side of the address box that you would click. There are two icons on the right side of the address box. One is the star that you use to favorite a web page, and the other is this reading. It looks like a little book. It's a Reading View icon. So all you have to do is click that. So it's very visible, but you don't know what it is. I mean, there's no big arrows pointing to it or anything.
If you look at it, it looks like a book. People might confuse it for a bookmark.
Yeah,
icon.
exactly. But I have this problem with a lot of modern iconography that what appears intuitive to the designer is completely foreign to the general populace, and I think that's the case with a lot of the stuff in these browsers where we don't have text anymore. And you got the tooltip, of course, but you don't have text next to something explaining. It's just a picture, and we don't read anymore. We just look at pictures, and unless it's a picture of a guy a stick figure walking across the street, I think all of these pictures are up for grabs as far as they define.
Well, can you customize the toolbar so you can actually put those anywhere you want?
No, and it isn't even part of the toolbar. They're literally two icons within the address box.
Oh, so it's not so customizable. Okay, all right, interesting.
But it is a great feature for normal users, for seniors, for people with vision problems. It's a wonderful feature. It's just I love it. It really changes the way I'm viewing the web now.
Have you tried it on, let's say, like a YouTube page? Because a lot of browsers there, you can get plugins where you can put like if you load up a page with a video on it, it'll automatically put it into what it calls theater mode, where it kind of blows up the video as large as it can, and just kind of makes the video front and center. Have you tried the reading only mode and see?
No, I have not, but I guarantee you the next break we take, I will. I'll test it on YouTube, so we'll take a look at it. I don't have it on this computer right here. It's on the computer back there. But, it's great. There's also a mode where you can annotate web pages.
Yeah.
they call it the notes mode, so that you can highlight things on a web page and draw circles and put little text comments and stuff.
I think I saw the commercial for that, like on television. I think they're advertising that where they're like, kids of the future will be able to write
I don't think it's a dumb feature. I think it's a feature nobody's going to use. Maybe students. I don't know. I think it's odd that they're pushing that feature and not pushing Reading View. Because to me, it's just the opposite. Reading View is like it transforms the web. This, being able to mark up a web page. Yeah, fine. Why in the world would I do that? But I would push those exact opposite the way Microsoft's pushing them. But it's there, So and you can do it, and you can save your marked up pages, as your favorites or whatnot. So, if you do a lot of I see it as somebody who does a lot of research, and you want to mark up web pages that way. That it's useful for that, but I think for the general populace, it's going to be little used.
Okay. All right, and then the other browser feature that you mentioned here in your notes, is the Cortana search integration.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about Cortana next hour, but Cortana is kind of like Siri. It's kind of a virtual personal assistant sort of dealie within Windows. Well, Microsoft, in addition to making it its own standalone thing, has integrated it within the browser. So if you go to certain web pages, if you go to a web page that, this is all linked to Bing. So if you go to a web page that Bing knows a lot about, like say a restaurant, there's a particular restaurant in Seattle they use for all their examples. If you go to that web page, Cortana within the Edge browser will pop up a new pane to give you more information about that restaurant automatically. You don't have to do a thing. It will list the hours and whatnot there in a little pane. You can also, on any web page you visit, you highlight something. You double-click to highlight a word or phrase, right-click, and you've got an option there that says Ask Cortana. So you would click Ask Cortana, and it would give you information about whatever it was you highlighted. So if you were going to a sushi restaurant and you didn't know what sashimi was, you could highlight the word sashimi, click Ask Cortana, and you get a pane pop up within the browser, within the same tab. I mean, it doesn't open up a new window or anything. It's just all right there integrated, which will give you the definition of sashimi and some pictures and whatever else is interesting. So it's a great way to kind of, I like to always ask more questions when I'm out there on the web, and what's this, and how do I do this, and I'm always opening up new tabs and doing new Google searches and stuff. Well, now with this Cortana integration, I don't have to do anything different other than right-click and click, and it gives me that extra information that I wanted right there within the browser.
Well, I've always thought Cortana that was voice recognition rather than just.
Well, and it can be. You can operate Cortana either with voice or with the keyboard. I think we talked about this a little bit last month when I was on the show that some devices like a phone you're used to talking into. So Siri or Cortana makes sense with voice. Your computer, not too many people talk to their computers unless they have serious mental issues, and or on the radio, and those are not exclusive properties.
No, Sheila, he did mean you. Not you.
But with the computer, we're more used to using the mouse and using the keyboard. So Cortana you can operate Cortana with the keyboard that way, and I think that's the way most people will do it. The voice operation is there if you want to. It's your choice.
Okay. All right.
Well, I think people are really gonna like that feature because I think I'm just like you, where I'll see something and I'll highlight it, right click it, and I just open up a Google search to sort through all the information myself. But if Cortana's going to do it for me, I could, that's actually a feature that, going into this, I'm kind of skeptical about how much I'll actually be using Cortana. But that seems like one where I'd be like, okay, she has a purpose.
Well, I tell you, in my testing of it, I don't use Cortana much from the desktop. I use it more as to find files on my computer than anything else, but I use it a lot in the browser. So as you said, it's a very useful thing, whether you use it on the desktop or not. I mean, we're all in our browser all the time anyway, right? That's when we're finding stuff that we don't know what it is. So you use Cortana that way, and here's the thing: you got to ask the question. Cortana is Bing. It's tied into the Bing search engine. How is this going to affect Google?
They're obviously going to have to start competing because I think Bing could Google could just look at Bing and say, oh look, Microsoft, they're trying, good for them, yay. But now that Bing is becoming more and more integrated with Windows, that's that has to be some kind of concern, and Google's going to have to really hope that they have the people's minds hardwired into Google equal search, like just that equation.
Well, but here's the thing: when you use Cortana, you actually don't see the Bing that much. Sometimes you do, but within the browser, you really don't. So it's almost debranding search. What am I doing? I'm searching with Cortana. I'm not thinking I'm searching Google or I'm searching Bing or I'm searching Ask Jeeves or whatever. It's just, I'm sorry, I date myself. Jeeves isn't a thing anymore. But it's just, I'm just asking Cortana. And it's debranding the search, and that's got to be to the detriment of Google.
Well, it's interesting because I never really thought about it, but you're right. When I use Siri to look for something, or I asked her to find something, she'll say, "I found this out in the web." She didn't say where she found it; just I found this on the web, and then you click on it and go from there. But you're right. There is this sort of a.
I wonder if you could change your preference for what results it fetches.
Not that I've seen. I mean, you can certainly change your preference for search within the browser, as you can within Chrome, but I don't think you can change the way Cortana works.
All right. Well, we'll find out. We'll talk more about it. We've got another hour of the Computer America Show coming at you here on the Computer America Show. Michael Miller continues on. We're talking Windows 10, 347-884-8881. We'll be right back in just a moment.
What are you doing right now? Listening to a radio show, right? And why? It could be because you get to hear about new things, get more information about them than you do in typical drive-by coverage. And the way you get to hear about them is fun. That's why I like Computer America, and it's why I think you'll like the Monday through Friday hour-long Bell Ringers show when it debuts on Nationwide Radio on August 31st. Each show has 4 in-depth reports on some brand new product or service you never heard about before. They also send releases to traditional online and social media to help those debuts make news from a show that's always newer than news. And that's going to be news to anybody you know who's planning their own new launch. So please, be their hero and ours by getting them to take a look at bellringersmedia.com. That's BellRingersmedia.com. See, that's our challenge. We don't yet have a Bell Ringers out there to help us debut Bell Ringers, but they will. Ask them to hurry. September segments are booking now.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And Michael Miller continues on with us. We're talking about Windows 10, all the intricacies, the ins and outs, and upgrading to it, everything that's relevant to it, because here we are on the eve of the eve and of the release of Windows 10 2 days from now. Not even that, really. The 29th of July, and it is here. Now, if you have a comment or question, give us a call, 347-884-8881, 347-884-8881. Or if you're radio shy, just go to ComputerAmerica.com, click on the Show Lounge button, and you'll see on the left-hand side where you can submit a question to myself and to Ben and get your question or comment answered in that fashion. Just makes it really, really easy. Michael Miller continues on with this. So, Mike, I think we talked a little bit about the browser, the Edge browser. We talked about Windows 10. We're talking about some of the features of the browser that you really like, which is the Reading View and Cortana search integration. Where do you want to go to next?
Well, actually, we were talking about whether Reading View, or Ben asked the question, does Reading View work with YouTube?
Oh, yeah.
I saw you hurry over there.
You saw me over there typing in the background, and the answer is nope, doesn't. Oh. It is one of the types of pages that it cannot transform. It really works best with web articles. you know, like on CNN or whatever site. And but yeah, it doesn't even, the icon doesn't even light up on a YouTube page, so you can't change that.
Probably
It would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of extraneous stuff on a YouTube page, but maybe it's just a matter of it can't tell what's what.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be some intelligence behind it in terms of what it strips out of the code. And it might be easy enough to strip out advertising, where on YouTube you got favorites and playlists and this and comments and that may just be too much for it. I don't know. I don't work for Microsoft, but
good speculation as to what you think why that's happening. Okay, so now we're continuing on with this. Are we finished pretty much with Edge? You want to move on to something?
Yeah, I mean, I think Edge is a big advancement. You know, at the beginning, when say, Microsoft's introducing a new browser, and I'm like, a browser schmouser. I mean, come on, they're all kind of the same. Who cares? I'm using Chrome, and let's be done with it. But with the addition of things like the reading view and the Cortana integration, I mean, it really are some added features to Edge that you just don't get in any other browser. And if everything else is equal, in terms of interface and operation, those added features might make it worthwhile for people to change. Honestly, I'm kind of wedded to the Google ecosystem, but I'm really, really seriously considering changing wholeheartedly. I've been kind of half and half over the past couple weeks between the two browsers, but I love the reading view, I love the Cortana integration, and I kind of miss them when I go back to Chrome.
So they're stepping up their game, is what you're saying, and
yeah. And it's usable stuff. I mean, this isn't just techie weirdo, we can do it because we can do it sort of stuff. This is real usability stuff.
So Ben, do you think they're gonna finally you give up your Chrome browser that you've and go over to Edge?
Well, I've never claimed to be one of those Chrome or die, Liberty or Chrome or death, one of those. But I switched over from Mozilla Firefox to Chrome because Mozilla Firefox had a huge bug for like a week, and I was like, yeah, I'll switch over. But I think I'm gonna have to try Windows 10. But I'll be honest with you, I'm so far tied into Google, the Google system, the Google philosophy, that I don't think I can separate myself from the ecosystem, because I use Gmail, I use Google Documents, I use the calendar, I use just everything on Google. I don't know if I should.
Well, I don't know. I mean, just because you're using Google Documents and all these things doesn't mean you have to use the Google browser. I mean, I use the calendar and all those things, and I'm using Firefox.
But it ties in so nicely. It's pizza and pepperoni.
In terms of pie condiments here, the two things that would keep me on Chrome, other than inertia, okay, and inertia is a big factor. One is the fact that I can synchronize my bookmarks across multiple devices. So whichever computer I'm using, if I'm using Chrome, I see the same bookmarks, I see the same history, whether it's my phone or my computer. So that's something that Edge doesn't have, is something that Chrome does. So that's a plus. The other thing is that Chrome does allow the use of extensions, and a lot of people put a lot of extensions into their browser, which Edge does not. So if you're big on this extension or that extension, then Chrome makes sense. In terms of working with the other Google stuff, as Craig said, big deal. I mean, any browser works with Gmail and works with Calendar and whatnot. But the extensions and the synchronization of the bookmarks are things that could keep you tied to Chrome.
Let me ask you this: are you saying, when you use extension, you're saying that there are no extensions for the Edge browser yet because it's too new, or they're just not going to have extensions at all? Now, that's
a fair question. Certainly, the first is true. Whether the second is true or not, I do not know. I mean, the way I read things is that it's not built the way that Chrome is in terms of being open in that regard. And certainly you would expect that from Microsoft. You wouldn't expect that open architecture. But I can't say that for sure.
Let me ask you this. The previous version of the previous browser, that worked with extensions, correct?
You could put some stuff in it, but not like you do with Chrome.
Maybe plugins, or is it the same thing?
Extensions are maybe a little bit more robust than plugins. It's a fine line.
Okay. And you're saying right now you can't do either? You can do plugins on the current version of the browser?
On Explorer you can, but on Edge I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that it won't always be that way, but at least fresh out of the box is pretty clean.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, if it's going to compete against the other modern browsers, it's going to have to implement some kind of plug-in add-on store. So it's probably coming.
Probably.
Probably.
Probably. Okay. All right. So again, talking to Michael Miller about the Windows 10 on the eve of its release. So what do you want to go to next? Because we have
we've talked a little bit about Cortana. Just to give people a sense of really how this works and how well it's integrated. We talked about Cortana within the browser, but on the desktop itself, you've got going from left to right along the taskbar, you've got the Start button, yay, and then right next to it you've got a big search box which says, Ask Me Anything. Okay. And that is Cortana. And it actually does a couple different things. If you literally click within the search box and start typing, you do a search. And depending on what you enter, you may get results. A little panel pops up, from that search box. A panel pops up going upwards vertically. You can use Cortana to search for files on your computer. You can use Cortana to search for apps on your computer. You can use Cortana to search for apps within the App Store. And you can use Cortana to search the web. So if you would type, as an example, Microsoft into the search box, you get this results panel that pops up, and the first couple of hits are going to be apps on your computer, like Microsoft Photos or Microsoft whatever. Then it will show you a couple of other apps that you could download from the App Store. Then it might show you a few files on your computer that contain the word Microsoft in them. I write about Microsoft products, so I've got a lot of Word documents there. And then it will give you some results from the web, the Microsoft website, stories about Microsoft, etc. And you can expand any of those sections to see more of those things. So, if I can't find an app on my computer, which is quite likely these days, I'll just type the name of the app. It'll pop up in the search results on Cortana, and I click it and launch the app. If I'm searching for a file, same thing, I will use it that way. But you can also, as I said, use it to search the web. So if you go down to the web results from within Cortana, you click one of those, and it opens up your browser, whatever your default browser is, whether it's Edge or Chrome or Firefox, with a Bing search page with search results from Bing for that web search. So it really is kind of multifunction in terms of the search that you can do with Cortana. And on certain things, if you're just searching for a thing like how old is George Clooney or how far is it to the moon, it will actually give you that result, just like Siri would. So the very first thing you see was George Clooney is 57 years old or however old he is, or the moon is, how many million miles it is. It will tell you that right at the top before it gives you other search results.
That's very nice.
Now, in addition to the searching, you can configure Cortana to just display content of interest to you. So let's say you click within the Cortana search box but don't type anything. Okay, you type something, you're searching. If you don't type anything, it pops up the Cortana panel again, but with almost like a Flipboard, in terms of having little tiles with stories on them. Okay, so if you've told Cortana that I like foreign news and entertainment news, local weather, and I want to follow the Blackhawks, it will pop up little tiles with stories of interest to you. And in fact, it will even learn from the web pages you go to and the searches you make what content you're interested in. Again, it's kind of like the Google Now that we have on Android phones, or like Flipboard to some degree, but with more personalization on it. And so it is a search and it is a personalized content provider as well.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, can you turn that on or off?
Yes. If you don't want to get any of that content, you can turn it all off.
Okay.
And just use it for search. You can also use it, and this one I always forget about, but it's right there. You can use it to set reminders. You say, I want to pick up the milk tonight, or I have to pick up my laundry next week, or pay my taxes on April 15th. You can set reminders in it, and the reminders will come up in the Cortana pane also.
That's very nice. That's right. Now, when I say turn it off, I mean, in other words, I assume if I'm browsing something and it's a family computer, and then another family member starts looking at things and browsing for things that I would never look for, then does Cortana learn that, or or is it basically on the account?
Did you find something on my computer you want to tell me about?
Those high heel shoes.
No, Cortana can only distinguish between whoever's logged in, which is a reason you want to establish multiple accounts on your computer, which is very easy to do in Windows 10. In fact, you can establish child accounts and adult accounts and friend accounts and that sort of thing. So, if you're using it, your wife's using it, your kids are using it, make sure everybody logs in separately, and they'll keep that straight.
Okay. That's good, because Cortana is going to do a lot of learning. You don't want her to learn the wrong thing for you,
or for your kids, for that matter.
I guess once she learns something, is there any way to get her to unlearn it? Or I didn't mean to go to that or do that, and anywhere to get her to, or is
that's a good question, and I think there is. I think it's kind of like Google Now, that you can tell it, I'm not interested in this, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to research.
In that regard, it reminds me a lot of Google Now. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I've got it on my Android phone.
Google Now.
It's the same thing, that it will learn from the searches you make and the apps that you open and the web pages you go to. It learns about you and displays these little tiles of content. On a phone, you just scroll through the tiles, and it's got the weather, and it's X number of miles to home, and shows you a map, and just whatever that it thinks is relevant to you. It actually does a pretty good job. Google Now does. And again, if there's something that pops up that is not relevant to me, because my granddaughter's been using my phone to look at Kids Bop tunes, I can just tap it and say, no, I'm not interested in that anymore.
Okay, good. All right. Anything else about Cortana before we move on?
No, I think it remains to be seen how used it will be. I mean, it really is kind of changing the dynamics of what you expect from your operating system. Now, we're kind of used to that on the iPhone, but but my sense on the iPhone is that Siri is not used by 100% of the users. I'm not even sure Siri is used by 50% of the users. So, I'm not sure how different that's going to be on a computer. Because again, we don't really expect that from the operating system. It's introducing really new functionality that we haven't had before.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And as we talked about, you can operate it either with the keyboard or with the voice. Microsoft's really pushing the voice. You click a button, or you say "Ask or "Hey Cortana" is what you're supposed to say. Yeah. Hey Cortana. But again, computers were used to using the keyboard. I'm not sure how many people will be talking to their computers. It'd be like Scotty and what was it, Star Trek 4, where he picked up the mouse when he went back in time and picked up a mouse and started talking into it.
Yeah. But remember, I also mentioned to you the other scenario, the flip side to that coin, and that is a lot of people are going to use Cortana as an adjunct or an enhancement. So I'll be typing something on the keyboard, and while I'm doing this, hey Cortana, would you look this up for me while I'm still typing?
See, at the same time, I've never been so busy that I needed a personal assistant to be like, oh yeah, sure, but I'll get that for you right away. Slow down.
Yeah, but you could
have a Pop-Tart. Relax.
Yeah, but you could do that. I mean, that's how I think people are going to be using it.
Well, you could if your equipment's set up. If you've got a desktop PC, you might not have a microphone set up. Now, if you've got a notebook, you do. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. I mean, I use my notebook when I'm sitting in Starbucks or some anonymous coffee shop. Sorry, I don't want to plug anybody here. I'm sitting there in a coffee shop using my desktop, or I'm using my notebook. I mean, am I really going to want to be talking to my notebook while I'm there while people are around? And by the way, well, I mean, I suppose they'd have to say, hey, Cortana. Somebody was sitting next to me and said, oh, and talking to a lady named Cortana and said, hey, Cortana, then they would operate my computer. But, that's probably less likely.
Oh, yes, exactly. And in a public place, you don't want to. But in your office or the quiet of your home, then perhaps maybe you might. Okay. All right.
I mean, the options are there. I mean, Microsoft covered all their bases with keyboard operation, with voice operation. So, people will use it. It'd be interesting to see the user statistics, after a year, to see, one, how many people are using it, period, and two, whether they're using the keyboard, whether they're using the voice, and just how they're using it.
Okay.
They in their most recent advertising, for a television thing, the one that I saw, that I mentioned earlier about, the kids of the future will be able to not only talk about, not only be able to talk to each other, but to talk to your computer, and they'll do things for you. So it's nice that they are, completely integrating keyboard, mouse, and all that kind of thing. as opposed to like Windows 8, where they were really pushing, the future is touchscreen, yay!
Yeah, you could only use Cortana by tapping her with your finger.
Yeah, let's hope not. But that because we're used to keyboard and mouse does not mean that everyone, for some reason, I feel like the Windows 10 is going to be a gateway drug to hooking a lot of the younger generation to an operating system. It feels like that just from the advertising they're doing and just the way that they're adding new features like this. Maybe they're trying to get kids to use a computer more easily.
Maybe, or maybe they're just trying to compete with Apple. I mean, they're going to make Cortana available on all different devices. There's going to be an iOS version of Cortana. There's going to be an Android version of Cortana. So, I mean, they're kind of pushing it cross-platform now, which is very different for Microsoft. I mean, before, up until the past year or so, Microsoft wouldn't do anything on any other platform because, we can't even speak of those people. But now, the different divisions within Microsoft are operating independently and saying, like the Office guys, they finally released an Android version of Office. They released an iOS version of Office, which was, they go to purgatory if they did that before under the old regime. So, Microsoft is kind of thinking outside of the box on this stuff, and, whether that applies to their computers or to somebody else's phones, I guess they're to the point where they don't care anymore as long as they're just using it.
All right. I want to talk about some of these other new features here, and I think we've kind of done the start menu to death, so I'm going to skip over that if we have time, or we'll come back to it. But I want to talk about some of the new things like the Action panel with notifications and quick actions. What are these?
Yeah, this is kind of a neat thing, and again, it's kind of added new functionality to the operating system. If you look at the lower right-hand corner of the taskbar, where we've got what we call the notification area, where you've got the little icon for power and the icon for wireless and the time and the date over there, there is a new notifications icon, and it lights up in color if you've got notifications, or just plain black and white, or not color, but it changes the look of it. It lights up if there's a notification. But anyway, you click this and it opens up something called the Action Center. Some people are calling it the Notifications panel because you think if you click a Notifications button you get a Notifications panel, but no, you click the Notifications icon and it opens up the Action Center. So it's the Action Center is what it opens up, is what I'm saying. And the Action Center has two parts. The first part at the bottom has little tiles for what they call quick actions. And these are things like turning Wi-Fi on and off, or switching to tablet mode, or going into airplane mode, or muting the sound, or whatnot. All these things are in little bitty panels at the bottom of this Action Center. So that's great. So you've got all these quick actions all in one place, which is great. But then above that, you have a whole panel, goes up the whole right-hand side of the screen, that lists notifications. And these could be system notifications, such as, I just installed a driver for you. It could be, that you've got new email. It could be, if you're linked into other Microsoft apps, it might show news headlines there also, like say from the News app or from the Sports app. And it's all right there in the right-hand panel when you open up the Action Center. So it's a new place to display both essentially shortcuts to useful tools, as well as system and message notifications.
Okay. All right.
It's the sort of thing, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I find myself using it all the time. So this might be one that is a surprise hit without anybody really thinking. It's not something, I don't need that. I mean, I could always open up, this from the start menu or whatnot, but it actually puts the most useful stuff all in one place over there when you click that icon. So, and that's kind of a good thing. Apparently it is, because I'm using it all the time.
Right. Sounds good. And then the other one was the quick actions.
Yeah, the quick actions are within that Action Center, and I don't have it on this computer, so I'm going to have to go from memory here. There's a quick action for settings, which is kind of replaces the control panel to turn Wi-Fi on and off. If you want to switch to tablet mode, with a full screen experience, you don't have to go deep within some control panel to get to it. You just click the notifications thing, and there's a quick action there for it. So, I mean, there's about a dozen little quick actions there. I guess the equivalent would be on my Android phone. If you swipe down from the top of the screen, you can see, a half dozen different, useful things. Quick actions is kind of the equivalent of that.
Yeah, I was just saying, for iOS, it's swipe up from the bottom, and it's airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, blah blah blah, play or start a video, sound, and all that kind of stuff. So same thing, just a nice little panel where you can quickly control just a bunch of useful things. That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, but before this, you really had to dive into something. You had to dive in the old versions of Windows, you had to dive into the control panel, and you might have to, click 5 times to get to something. Well, why not put the most used stuff in one place? And that's kind of what the Action Center does.
Makes complete sense, and I'm actually looking forward to that one. It can't get tiresome when you have to troubleshoot your internet, and you're just clicking back and forth. It gets so annoying. So but that's actually nice. I like that.
Well, what's interesting, and I really hadn't thought of this much before, that a lot of these new features, Cortana, for example, and the Action Center with the quick actions, these are all functionality that kind of comes from the world of smartphones that are coming back to us here now on the desktop system. So that's kind of interesting that it's migrating from one device to another device and back, and giving us there are some things that are good about smartphones, that it's integrating that functionality.
Okay.
Better than just saying, oh, people are using all these tablets and smartphones. People must really, really like the touch user interface. let's triple down on that one. No, I think they kind of see that, while maybe not everything on a smartphone is intuitive, once you do learn it, it becomes so much quicker to navigate, which I think Windows 10, just from everything that you're talking about and everything I've seen, Windows 10 seems to be much quicker to navigate once you get, a handle on it.
Yeah, and the nice thing is it's integrating these kind of smartphone-like features, but putting them in a desktop operating world.
Yeah.
If you have a touchscreen device, you can bring in that action panel by swiping in from the right. But if you don't have a touchscreen device, you click the notifications button. Makes perfect sense. Same thing with Cortana. Yeah, you can operate it with voice if you want to, but if not, you just click in it and you type. So it kind of covers the way that all of us people who've been using computers for the past X number of years, the way we're used to doing it, it incorporates that into these new features.
Very, very nice. Okay. What else? The settings?
Well, actually, talking about settings is a thing. I mean, for years and years, how long has Control Panel been around?
A long time.
Does that go back to Windows 3, maybe?
I find great comfort in the because with the I still use the old. They give you the option of using the Control Panel settings rather than the modern ones.
Well, here's the deal. Control Panel's still there. It hasn't gone away. In fact, there are still a few functions, a few things to configure that you have to go back to Control Panel. Home groups being an interesting example. If you want to do home groups, you have to use Control Panel. You can't use this new thing. But this new thing is simply called Settings. I love that. Control Panel sounds like something out of a Buck Rogers film, right? Settings. Oh, settings. I need to adjust the settings. I can dig that. But settings is in the new graphic user interface, which means it's bigger icons and flatter icons and bigger type and all that. But it is the Windows 10 equivalent of the Control Panel. So you open up the Settings tool, which you can do from the Action Center or from the Start menu, either one. And you get this new flat window on the screen, which has, I believe it has 9 different options on it, for personalization, for system, for users, for upgrade and security. And it works like, in terms of getting to stuff, it works like Control Panel. You click into an area and you get the options for it. But the way it works is very much new and fresh. I mean, it makes Control Panel look like the 20-year-old horse that it is. This thing, you've got a pane on the left, you've got a pane on the right. The pane on the left is kind of like tabs. So if you go into personalization, you'll have a tab for desktop. You'll have a tab for Start menu. You'll have a tab for the lock screen, etc. And then once you click one of those tabs, you have the controls for that in very big, bold Windows 10-like graphics on the right-hand side to adjust. It's very intuitive. It looks modern. It feels fresh. It is actually more logical than the old Control Panel is how you find stuff.
Oh,
in fact, I find it easier to find stuff in the settings tool than in Control Panel.
Well, that was the old thing, because when you went to the next version of Windows, and then they started playing the old shell and P game, because they would take one element out of the one control panel, and move it into a different control panel where it used to be, and then wasn't it there? So that I can understand settings is going to be easier. Because sometimes which control panel did I put that in?
Well, I tell you, you couldn't do it in Windows 8, but in Windows 7, you could actually get in the options and configure Control Panel to be actually a menu on the Start menu, so that each of the individual panels became a menu item, and there were like 40 of them, mind you, but at least it put them all front and center. It didn't hide them like it does in the traditional Control Panel arrangement. Yeah. But the settings, it's going to be easier for people to find stuff. It's going to be easier for people to comprehend it and figure it out. And it just looks cool. I mean, you have to see Windows 10. It really is a graphical overhaul to the operating system, and it makes the old stuff kind of look old and tired. The new stuff does look a lot fresher.
Well, I'm all for that. And again, the fact that you can check to make sure that your computer, it'll check to see if everything you have is ready to give it. Are you saying give it a week for most people?
I'd say, look, a million people have been testing this thing for the past year. The build that is the general consumer release has actually been out in the wild now for about 2 weeks. And a couple of builds before that were pretty solid. They didn't really change much in the 2 builds previous to that. I'm comfortable with giving it to people right now.
But could I also ask you to take that same philosophy and now apply it to Windows 8? Over 1 million people had it.
Well, here's the deal. During the testing of Windows 8, 1 million people were testing it, and they were all complaining about it. Microsoft didn't listen to them. During this, there were things that Microsoft did during the testing that people immediately said, "Oh, don't do that," or "Why did you do this?" Do I have to have Cortana on the taskbar? And the answer is no. There's a configuration option to get rid of that search box if you don't want it there, and it wasn't there initially. So Microsoft listened to people during this testing. Under Windows 8, they just said, "You're gonna like it. You're gonna take this and you're gonna use it and you're gonna love it, and then there's no option for you." What are you gonna do? Use Apple? No, you're gonna like it.
I thought Microsoft was located in Redmond, Washington, not the Deep South. We're taking a little break here. We continue on. Michael Miller is here with us, and we're talking about Windows 10. We got a little break. A new News Tips Polls review from Marty Winson coming up right now. Stay with us.
This is a commercial, so okay, some of you can take a minute for a bathroom break, but if you're in marketing at a company or an agency, and you're launching a new product or new service anytime on or after August 31st, this is important. Take a look at bellringersmedia.com. It's a game changer. I'll kill a few seconds so you can grab something to write down that URL. SlashGear, same-day guaranteed full coverage on a top 5 online news site. Business Wire, PR Newswire, and PR web releases to traditional and online and social media. Full segment coverage on our nationwide radio show over so many stations that more than 50 million people can tune us in. Plus an annual production budget of more than $10 million. So you know it's going to be more polished and higher energy than anything else on radio. Ready for that URL? It's bellringersmedia.com. That's bellringersmedia.com. But hurry, September segments are booking now.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? That's so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
No one else can hear us, right? Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time the Honeywell DH50W 50-pint dehumidifier. We try to keep our crosshairs on avoidable workspace interruptions and other productivity reducers, so we got in the double whammy of a Honeywell DH50W dehumidifier. The 50-pint rating is how much water it can condense in 24 hours. 45 to 50 pints from most rooms and 50 to 70 pints from basements or large rooms. Its handle-equipped tank holds a bit over 14 pints, and there's an auto shut-off when it's full, or it has a garden hose fitting that allows continuous draining. This dehumidifier is big on intelligence and convenience features. A digital humidistat that lets you set a target humidity, automatic on-off timer, automatic low-temperature defrost, 2 fan speeds, a washable air filter, and automatic recovery after power failures. Bottom line, you can explain that you're buying it to prevent mold and mildew. But the real reason for a Honeywell DH50W is that both your work and its caretaking are no sweat. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. And don't worry, Marty Winston, no one can hear you. Except, I guess, everyone. No.
That's supposed to mean.
No. At the beginning of that News Tips Bulletin review, he's like, no one else can hear us, right? I'm like,
okay, yeah, I get it. Okay.
There you go. Okay. Craig caught back up to speed. Let's catch everyone else up to speed. 33 minutes past the hour in the second hour on a Monday edition of Computer America. And we have author Michael Miller here with us, and we're talking all about Windows 10, some of the new features. We've already talked about the browser. We've talked about Windows 10 in general. We've talked about Cortana. We've talked about the Action Panel settings tool. And I'm sure we're going to hit a couple more tonight. And it seems like Windows 10, all in all, is going to bring a lot of changes. Yet at the same time, is still going to feel like the same old. Well, not the same old, but the same browser that the same environment that you have kind of come to expect of Windows if you are a longtime user. So these changes are they're changes, but they're not drastic changes. They're not fundamental to the core changes like Windows 8 tried to be. So we've been talking a lot of positive things, a lot of good things, and I guess the next thing that we should talk about, I believe. Did we touch on the task view already?
Nope, that's next.
All right.
Yeah, task view is a virtual desktops, essentially, okay, that you can, set up this window on your desktop, because this is the way you work, and then you can set up a different desktop which has different apps running on it, and then very easily switch from one desktop to the next. I don't know how many people use that sort of functionality, but it's very, very easy to do in Windows 10. It really is. You click a button, you move some stuff around, you click another button, and it's easy to switch back and forth between them. And again, you would have to be working on different stuff in different ways for it to really be useful for it. So you might have an entertainment desktop, and you might have an office work desktop and that sort of thing, and click a button and switch between these apps and these apps quite easily.
Okay, all right, sounds like a good. Now, one of the things that Apple came out with eventually and learned its lesson as their iOS operating system is Johnny Ives, who's one of their main designers there, decided to use something which is called anti-skeuomorphism, which is a mouthful, basically saying that it's keeping the icons flatter, more simple. They're not these complex pictures with the shadows and everything. He simplified it. In this next thing, you make a note of the interface changes, flat with big icons. Is that what they're doing with Windows 10?
That's exactly what they're doing, and they're kind of late to the game on this. I mean, Apple, because of Johnny Ives, kind of was first in that on the iPhone, but Google has also been doing that. If you use any Google product at all, if you use Gmail or whatnot, you're used to seeing it. And certainly on the Android operating system with KitKat, they've gone to that new type of design. Well, that's what you get in Windows now as well. So you no longer have icons that look like they're supposed to represent something. The example would be, if you got a paint program, you'd have something that looked very much like a paintbrush, up there with ridges and whatnot on it, and a wooden handle, and now it just is like a flat graphic representation of a paintbrush instead. It doesn't pretend to look real. In fact, it goes out of its way not to look real. It's kind of like the iconography that you see on street signs.
Right.
The little stick figure walking across the road. That's the sort of icon you're going to see these days.
And that's proven to be the most effective, hasn't it?
Well, I don't know whether it's effective or whether it's trendy. I can imagine 10 years from now we're going to have little icons that look like 3D holograms or something. I mean, you go through trends, right? But the trend right now is this flat, very non-realistic type of iconography. And in doing that, especially in Windows maybe even takes it another step, and that everything is bigger. I mean, if you compare the old control panel, which is still there, with the new settings tool, same sort of stuff in it, right? Well, the settings tool takes up more screen space. If you open up the control panel and you've got your window open there, you've got, I don't know what, you got 42 different icons with subheadings and whatnot on it, right? You open up the settings tool and there are 9 things. So it's just bigger and simpler. Again, I think this is kind of a backwash from the iPhone, from the smartphone world, where everything in your hand, and it's got to be, you can only put so much on a small screen. Well, I think it's kind of applying that to the large screen. I mean, not to a ridiculous extreme, mind you, but to an extreme that, okay, you don't have to squint your eyes to see stuff anymore. It's just kind of all bigger on the screen. And again, it just feels fresher because that's what we're seeing on all the other devices also.
Right. And also it takes less, it takes more computing power to generate the icons and manage them. So I guess the simpler, it's a little less graphic.
That's probably negligible.
Yeah, they've had to change that around. I mean, the problem with the old icons is they didn't scale.
Yeah.
So, if you had a bigger monitor, with higher resolution, the icons still kind of appeared small because they just didn't scale. Now these icons scale, so it doesn't matter whether you got a 24-inch monitor or, a little 12-inch monitor. They scale perfectly.
That's nice. Yeah. They're probably using like vectored graphics. So.
Yeah. And one other little thing that was, they just kind of announced today in Windows 8 and 8.1, you sign into Windows with a Microsoft account more often than not. That's what they encourage you to do. That's the best way to do it. Well, if you sign into another device with that Microsoft account, in Windows 8, your start menu, or your start screen in Windows 8, would appear the same. So whatever tiles you have laid out would appear exactly the same on another device. They actually just deleted that functionality from Windows 10.
Because?
Just within the past couple weeks. Because Microsoft finally realizes that different devices with different size screens need to look and work differently. That is, if you make a layout of your start menu for your 24-inch desktop computer, but then you go and open that thing up on your 12-inch netbook, it's not going to work right. It's not going to look right. It's going to be too big. It's going to be too fancy. So you actually want to have different layouts on different devices. Yeah. I think it's a quantum leap in thinking on Microsoft's part that they finally recognized that. I mean, that was the whole problem with Windows 8. They said everything is the same. All devices are the same. It doesn't matter. Now with Windows 10, they're saying, no, every device is different. We don't, it really is. I mean, we learned that. So, we're not going to, you get this layout here, we're not going to force you to use that same layout on another device.
But can you if you want to?
No. It will not sync.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you could create or replicate that same layout if you wanted to, but it will not automatically synchronize.
Got it. Okay. That's a good thing.
I think so. I mean, a lot of people are saying, oh, that was kind of a nice feature that you could sync, and then Microsoft's explanation is, yeah, but why would you want to? I mean, honestly, I got a 24-inch monitor. I fill up my start menu with all sorts of different tiles, and I make them big because, tiles on a start menu can be small, medium, wide, whatever. Well, if I'm looking at my little 12-inch netbook, I don't have that much space, so I want to use smaller tiles and not as many of them. Of course you want to do it differently on different devices. Of course you do.
Okay. All right.
One of those things that I think happens so often with people is that it looks good on paper, but in the real-world application, syncing everything would be a catastrophe.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, something sound. Yeah, Ben's right. I mean, that's exactly.
On paper, it's like,
and that's the whole thing with
sync.
Windows 8. It all sounded good on paper.
And then it all fell apart. I'm gonna go back because we covered some of the ones that I really wanted to do, and go back to these new features that are actually not new, but they're kind of returned, and talk a little bit about some of those.
Yeah, well, I mean, the big thing is the start menu's back.
Yeah.
Windows 8, one of the biggest mistakes Microsoft made is they said, hey, we're going to get rid of the start menu. They didn't think that, people like to use it all the time. They said we're going to have a full screen start screen with tiles on it, which worked great on a tablet. And it works great on Windows Phone. It's a stupid, horrible, dumb idea on a desktop or a notebook PC.
I've heard people use the word anxiety whenever they open the full screen start menu, and they said they get anxious.
Yeah.
Whenever the whole thing
it's just
takes over.
dumb. I mean, why would you do it? Everybody uses the start menu. I mean, it's something that everybody uses. There was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing broken with it, but they took it away. Okay, that's the past. With Windows 10, the start menu's back. Yay. So we can all use the desktop just like we always used to use the desktop. We're back to the status quo of 2012 now. All right?
But they've improved it, right?
But they've improved it, yes. When you open up the start button now, you actually have two pieces of the start menu. You have the left-hand side, which looks like the traditional start menu. From the top, it's got your picture and name up on the top. You click that, get to your account settings and stuff. It has your most recently used apps are next in that list. It has some other stuff you can pin to it. It has icons for the File Explorer and settings and power are all there on the left-hand side, as well as a button for all apps. So if you want to see all your apps, you click that. Just like in Windows 7, what did you have to click? All programs, it was called in Windows 7. That's called all apps in Windows 10, all right?
Programs have become apps in the 21st century.
Yes, we don't use programs or applications or software. We use apps. I just think of little things with bacon and cream cheese in them. Those are apps, aren't they? I don't know. But it doesn't look like that anymore because they're all flat. It just, it doesn't look at all like bacon and cream cheese. But that's the left side of the start menu. The right side of the start menu is where you pin your favorite programs. Now, in Windows 7, if you pinned a program to the start menu, it just stayed on the left-hand side because you didn't have a right-hand side. You want to hit the left-hand side. But on the right-hand side of the Windows 10 start menu are tiles. Now, these tiles are a direct port from Windows 8. But whereas in Windows 8 they appeared on that whole start screen, now they only appear on the start menu, and therefore the apps that you pin. And they can be resized. There's 4 different sizes, so they can be little or medium or big or wide. And if it's the right kind of app that you've pinned, it can be live. So if you pin one of the universal apps, let's say like the weather app, that tile, when you look at it, instead of just saying weather, it will actually show your weather forecast or your current weather conditions on it. If you pin the Photos app to the start menu, you will see not the word photos, but actually a slideshow of photos. You pin the News app, you won't see the word news, you will see rotating news pictures and stories. So they kind of function like the old gadgets or widgets in Windows 7, which, by the way, are not in Windows 10 anymore. They kind of function in that way. But they're right there only on the start menu. And the start menu, scrolls up and down just like you would expect it to. So you can put as many tiles on there as you want. You just scroll through them.
Okay, so they kept the great stuff from the earlier and tacked onto it the stuff from Windows 8 and came up with something so you have both.
Yeah, exactly that. And it will only take up as much space as you want it to. By default, the start menu, you've got the left-hand side and then the right-hand side. It is 3 tiles wide, the right-hand side is. You can, however, stretch it out. You can, how you put your cursor over the right-hand edge and you kind of stretch it. You can stretch the start menu out, so instead of being 3 tiles wide, it's 6 tiles wide. Or if you've got a wide enough monitor, you could make it 9 tiles wide if you wanted to. So you can resize your start menu that way.
That's nice. Okay. Okay, so go ahead.
And while we're talking about the start menu, let's talk a little bit about using Windows 10 on a tablet or a touchscreen device. If you do have a hybrid or a tablet and you do want to use it in touchscreen mode, there is a new tablet mode in Windows 10. You can click it from the Action Center, you can do it from within the settings tool. But when you do that, there's no start screen anymore, so that's gone from Windows 8. But what happens in tablet mode is the start menu now displays full screen. So you see those tiles spread across the screen. When you're in tablet mode, any app you open also goes full screen automatically. Now you can still kind of tile 2 apps side by side like you could in Windows 8, but essentially they're full screen. Everything becomes a full screen app in tablet mode. And because of a technology that Microsoft's calling Continuum, that while you can go into tablet mode manually by clicking a button, if you're using a tablet, Windows automatically senses that and goes into tablet mode. So if you've got one of these new hybrid PCs with a detachable keyboard or the flippable this or that, that you can use either as a computer or as a tablet, when you're using it with the keyboard, you see the normal desktop and the normal start menu. You detach that keyboard or flip it around or whatever you do with it, and it senses it and automatically switches into tablet mode at that point in time.
That's sweet. I like that. That's very nice.
It's just smart. It's the way, you say, wow, wow, wow. It's like, no, it's just the way it should work, right? It should sense what you're doing and display the right interface for that.
And it only took them 2 versions of the OS to figure this out. 8 and 8.
Yeah, I think they may have figured this out 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, I guess it was. That just took them that long to implement it.
Well, it sounds like they were really getting their act together. And I know. Listen, we lived with this through you. The anguish and the lament when it came out, and we're so happy to see that you're happy.
We almost set up a fund. We had a fund for children in Africa. We had a fund for hurricane victims, and we had a fund for Windows 8.1 frustrated user base.
Yeah. To be fair, you're saying I was the one who was frustrated. No, I was one of billions. All right. It was. I'm just the vocal voice of the silent majority here. With that, but look, for everybody who hated Windows 8, which was practically everyone, you will like Windows 10. It fixes. Literally, it rips out the stuff that you hated in Windows 8. That start screen isn't there anymore. The charms thing, which used to come in from the right for settings, isn't there anymore. They ripped it out. And they went back. It's almost like they went back to Windows 7 and started rebuilding from there. That's what it feels like. Certainly, mentality-wise, that's what happened at Microsoft. They started listening to their customers again. And, you listen to your customers, you listen to your users, you can't go wrong. You only go wrong when you don't listen to people.
Yeah. And I guess this will just go down in history as being, how Microsoft got it wrong, and then how Microsoft got it right again.
Oh, it's going to be, textbook examples in business textbooks, for the next 20 years, right alongside New Coke and, who knows what else.
Yeah. Okay.
How could they have gotten it so wrong? Will be the question.
Exactly.
Well, without New Coke, we couldn't have gotten Coke Classic, which I love. So.
But we would have had Coke Classic before. So
yeah, but I wouldn't know I loved it so much.
I get you don't know how much you love something until it's gone. We didn't know how much we really loved the start menu until Microsoft took it away.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't, and then they took it away, and it sounds like it's all people could think about.
Yeah, I got my wife is still using Windows 8.1 on her computer, and she calls me, when I'm out working, a couple times a week. Said, now how do I find this? How do I do this again on this computer? I should never have upgraded that one for you. Just wait a couple weeks. We'll get you up on Windows 10. You'll be fine.
I wonder if you can even. How long has it been since New Coke? Can you go to eBay and buy cans or bottles of New Coke?
What a dead market.
Yeah, right alongside the bottles of Pepsi Clear.
Oh, that was bizarre.
Oh, you remember that one? Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
People still buy that, and it's from like early '90s. And do not drink it; it's gone bad by now. If you have Pepsi
It wasn't that good to
Clear-
begin with. What could it be now? Yeah.
How would you know it's gone bad? It just tastes terrible in the first one.
Yeah. By the way, 20 years ago, this book came out. What was I doing 20 years ago? I was writing books about Windows.
There it is.
Windows 95, right there.
There it is.
Can't get away from it.
Nope.
20 years from now, I'll be writing about Windows, Clear or whatever they call it.
Windows Clear. New Windows.
Yeah. Classic Windows, new Windows,
Classic
yes.
Windows.
And we'll be saying, oh man, they really screwed up Windows 23. We can't wait for Windows 24 to come out.
I thought it was supposed to be Windows Forever.
Well, that's what you want to call it. You brand it with a stamp and a flag on it or something.
That's right, and it never changes. You just get updates, but it's the last version of Windows that will ever be sold.
I guarantee you there will be a regime change in Microsoft at some point in time, and there will be a Windows 11 or 12 or whatever they end up calling it. They're not going to be able to resist it. There will be a new Windows version sometime in the future. This is not the last version of Windows. They can't not do it.
They don't have to do it from a technical point of view, from a logistic point of view. They have to do it from a marketing point of view. That's the only reason.
They're going to say, "Oh man, remember we used to get such a big revenue jump when we did a new version. Oh, we got to do a new. What are we going to put in it? I don't know. We'll make it blue instead of yellow. Whatever. But we'll round the corners. It'll be new Windows. We'll do it. We'll get a big revenue jump."
But won't there be a voice of reason amongst those people saying, "Remember, learn from the past, learn from history"?
What is this voice of reason of which you speak, O wise man?
I mean, we don't learn from our mistakes? History?
No. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with companies like Microsoft, which are public companies, they get measured on a quarterly basis. Every 3 months, they get measured, and people, leave and they come and they go, and at some point in time, somebody will be looking at quarterly projections and quarterly earnings and whatnot. So, we got to do something to boost the earnings next quarter, and they're not going to remember what happened last year or 5 years ago or whatnot. Just doesn't happen. There's no corporate memory like that. It's always living in the moment.
Oh well, I guess so. So how to get it? How much will it cost?
You can get it if you've got that little Get Windows icon in your taskbar right now. Just click that and follow the instructions. You can get it that way. Otherwise, go to the Microsoft.com website and you can download it from there. This is going to be pretty much a download thing. There will be versions for sale in the stores if you want them, but why would you want them when you can download it for free? Because it is for free. If you've got Windows 7 or Windows 8 or Windows 8.1, actually, if you've got Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, I don't think you can upgrade directly from 8. I think you have to be on 8.1.
Yeah, but you just get the free upgrade from 8 to 8.1.
Yeah, you go to 8 to 8.1 and then you get it for free. Same thing. It's like, oh, you can't upgrade from Windows Vista. It's like, no, because you should have upgraded to Windows 7 before anyway. So from Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, it is a free upgrade for the next year until July 28th, 2016 at least. The upgrade is free. Microsoft is not going to come and charge you a year from now for a new service pack or anything like that. There have been some stories in the press where people have misinterpreted things. This is free. You get Windows for free, and it stays free.
When was the last time you went to a store and bought box software?
Me, about never. 10 years ago, I don't know. I mean, you can still find. You go to Office Depot and Best Buy, there's still software sections out there. They're pretty small, though.
They have cobwebs in
there. Out there.
I mean, because you can download what you need, and chances are what you're downloading is probably newer than what's in the box anyhow.
Yeah. The installation is very streamlined compared to past upgrades. You just get it going. It does its thing. Again, the graphics on the upgrade screens are these new improved graphics, lots of big type and whatnot. And there's not a whole lot you have to do during the upgrade process. You've got to enter your Microsoft account or create a new one. That's about it. And it does the rest. I mean, there's some options you can take in terms of, oh, do I really want to use this or that? Most people use the Express settings, and you're through it, within a couple of hours at the most.
Hey, we got about less than a minute here. Tell what's coming out with you. What books? What do we?
Well, within the next couple months, there will be 3 books about Windows 10: Easy Computer Basics, Absolute Beginner's Guide to Computer Basics, and My Windows 10 Computer for Seniors. Before then, there will be a My Google Chromebook book, probably within the next week or two, And I also have my Samsung Galaxy S6 for seniors coming out. And as soon as these books hit, you'll see them on my website, millerwriter.com.
The S6 and the S6 Edge both?
Yes, both covered in the same book, yeah.
If you're going to get the S6, why not get the Edge? I mean, it just that's another cool little element
If
to
it didn't cost anything, I'd say yes, but really it adds zero usable functionality. So, if you got to pay, how much is zero usable functionality worth to you?
You can leave it on the table face down and still know the time and all the notifications.
Woo!
All right.
Like we don't have enough clocks in the damn house anyway. Yeah.
Craig spends a lot of time on his back, so you got to realize. Sure.
It looks cool. Hey, Mike, listen, thank you so much for being with us here. Always a pleasure having you on the show. We look forward to having you back again with us next month on the 31st of August. Will be the last Monday of the month. Stay with us, please, to the end, okay? Tomorrow night, in the first hour, we're going to have Ubitus on the show, and they're talking about cloud gaming. Okay, they're going to talk about their technology, their new cloud gaming 3.0. John Rizzer was the senior vice president of America for Ubitus, is going to be joining us in the first hour, and then in the second hour, again, it's Hammerfall Publishing, and they make something called Warhammer. The
Warhammer Regicide.
Yeah, Regicide, exactly. And have you actually played these games, or?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, you have. And
they were kind enough to send ahead a 2 keys for the early access that's available on Steam. You can actually buy it right now, early access. But yeah, I got some time to play with it, and we're going to talk all about the features and just what this game is.
And they actually sent it to you, so you got 2 keys. You only needed the 1 key, right, to get in, or do you need both keys?
No, you just need 1. Gave the other one to another lackey.
Lackey, so you can play it. And we'll talk about that tomorrow.
90 seconds.
On the program as well. So, you certainly want to tune in tomorrow night. Again, Ubitus in the first hour, and Hammerfall Publishing talking about Warhammer. What is it?
Warhammer Regicide.
Regicide. Okay, absolutely. It's got the word "side" in it, so that probably means that somebody's going to die.
Well, it's Warhammer. Like, it shouldn't take you all the way to Regicide to realize that in a Warhammer game, things are going to get gory and violent very quickly.
Well, that about wraps up the show. Again, thank you all so much for being with us here tonight. Again, thanks to Mike Miller talking about Windows 10. I guess when Mike is here next month, obviously you'll have a whole month's worth of observations about Windows 10, and obviously you, our listeners, will have that as well. So it'll be a fun show. Michael Miller, again, thanks for being with us. That wraps it up. Thanks again for watching the Computer America Show. Ben and I will be here tomorrow night, same time, same bat station. So until tomorrow night, this is Craig Crossman hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Good night, everyone.
No, don't go. Stay.
10 seconds. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, everybody, again, thanks for watching the show. Glad you were here with us. Mike, thanks again, and I guess we'll see you next month, same time.
Hey, quick question now that we're off the official air.
1 second.
Did the chat room go away?
Yes, the chat room has gone away.
Yeah.
That's what we have the
submit a question for.
Submit a question. We were having a lot of problems with the chat room, people getting kind of rowdy, and we have really no way to screen it, and so we figured for now it was very distracting, so we kind of retired it, at least for now, until we can see what happens there.
Yeah, old technology anyway.
It is pretty old technology too. So the submitted question really gets the same point across. If people want to make a phone call, they can submit the question to us. So. All right, everybody, thanks again. We're going to finish the video, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right after you get work.